This is MLB Now. We are the show for the thinking fan. Hello again, everybody. I'm Brian Kenny. Good to be back with you. Busy show today. Joe Madden with his weekly visit. Rob Parker in the showdown. He's not down on the Astros. He's out on the Astros. Sounds severe. The weekend in pitcher injuries and our baseball-y plays center on that big Orioles-Pirates series. Rowdy Tellez, baseball-y all day. But first, it was 50 years ago today. Hank Aaron hit home run number 715. It broke the biggest record in sports, not just baseball, all of organized North America sport. Terrence Moore, who covered Aaron and wrote a recent book on Henry Aaron, will join us in a moment. But first, let's pay some respect to a true American legend and do a little digging in. How about this? This should be fresh in your mind. Mookie Betts, great season last year, right? Led the National League in WAR, finished second in the MVP voting. He had a 163 OPS plus, 338 total bases. He also had 39 homers and 107 RBIs. He slugged .579. Realize that is almost exactly what Henry Aaron averaged for 15 years. And Aaron did it from 1957 to 1971 with some of the lowest scoring seasons in live ball baseball histories. So let's widen things to a full 20 years. 20 years in a row, this is what Hank Aaron did. Hit .311, averaged 36 homers, 107 RBIs. His OPS plus, if you talk our language, 161, 100 being league average. It's MVP territory for 20 years. 102 runs scored, 319 total bases a year for 20 years. From age 21 to age 40, Hank Aaron produced year after year after year. I also want to point out, we have this image of Aaron as an older player because there's good video of him in the 1970s, more TV games. But Hank Aaron was an all-around player. Stolen bases weren't as valued as many of the years that he's playing, but he stole 31 bases one season. 3 times he had double digits in triples. He could run, he could field. In some seasons, he had more walks than strikeouts. He was an effective player, and he was clutch. He helped the Braves to back-to-back pennants in the late 1950s, going head-to-head in 2 7-game duels with some great Yankees teams. He won one of them, and in 3 postseason series, he hit .362, slugged over .700. Hank Aaron rose to the occasion. And I'll leave you with this. Here are the all-time leaders in total bases. Hank Aaron broke Stan Musial's record. Stan had set that a decade earlier. Albert Pujols just passed Stan Musial for second place all-time, and there's Hank at number 1. Are you notice anything here? Seeing what I'm seeing here? Do you see how far away everybody is from Hank Aaron? He's over 6,800. Pujols just got over 6,200. They're not even close. Henry Aaron is 645 total bases ahead of Pujols, having broken Musial's record by over 700 total bases. Amazing. All-time record. Henry Aaron represented the best of baseball and dominated the game of baseball, slowly but surely, with dignity and strength. Today, we celebrate his achievements. I want to know what you think on the 50th anniversary of 715. What stands out to you most about Henry Aaron's career? Let us know on X, at MLB Now. Right now, we get to the panel. Sean Casey, Mark Feinstein. Welcome, fellas. Good to see you guys.
Hey, what's up, PK? Nice work over there.
Thank you,
Good
Casey.
math, too.
I managed. What stands out to you about Henry Aaron when I say the name Henry Aaron for you, Case?
Well, the greatest of all time. You know, I really think greatest of all time. I have a story about Henry Aaron. Like, you talk about going through life. You think about when you meet certain people, you're in awe. Mm. And Henry Aaron was that guy. I got to see him a lot at World Series and stuff like that. In the 2016 World Series in Cleveland. Love Harold Reynolds, man. So grateful that Harold knows everybody. When Harold was talking to Hank Aaron, he was like, hey, Case, come on over and meet Hank. Mm. I was obviously very nervous, and I was very excited. So I went over and started talking to Hank Aaron, and Harold walks away. I'm sitting there, BK, with Hank Aaron and myself for 20 minutes. And I start asking him questions. I'm like, I'm not missing this moment.
Right.
I'm not missing this conversation.
Right.
So I start talking to him. Hey, can you tell me what it was like back in the day when you were in the Negro Leagues and you hit cross-handed?
Right.
And he was like, well, I tried to switch hit, and he went down this whole thing. He's like, one day I hit a rocket lefty off a buddy of mine, my good friend, in the cages off his knee. I never switch hit again. I was like, wow, it's incredible. And then I said, what was your approach at the plate? Were you nice and relaxed? Because I was like, I got to ask Henry Aaron.
Yeah.
He said, you know what? He goes, you know what? Relaxed. I was ready to hammer something every pitch. I just thought it was incredible. To have those 20 minutes with Hank Aaron, I will be forever grateful.
And most everyone who ever comes across him has the same sort of feeling that what a true gentleman that he was, and comported himself for such a lengthy period of time that he became this legendary figure.
Well, you had 20 minutes with Hank Aaron. I had about 60 seconds. And they were the most nerve-wracking 60 seconds I've had in this business, maybe. You know, we get very jaded talking to players all the time, past and present, the greats, Hall of Famers. There are 3 players that I've met in my career, 24 years, that I've actually been nervous to meet. Hank Aaron, Sandy Koufax, Willie Mays. Mr. Mays, Mr. Koufax, Mr. Aaron. And I met Hank Aaron at the World Series one year, and I talked to him for about 60 seconds, and all I could think of was, don't say anything stupid. We're going to walk away and say to somebody, who the heck was that guy? Yeah, I think everything Case just said, you know, arguably the greatest hitter of all time, most consistent, just a legend. And, you know, thank you very much for reminding people that I'm not as old as people think I am.
Well, that's right. You're just a kid. You didn't even see it happen.
Kid. I wasn't even alive.
I interviewed, this had to be 25 years ago. I'm interviewing him. I was just gotten to ESPN. I'm doing the Hall of Fame, and I'm backstage. I'm interviewing the Hall of Famers. And at that point, I'd been around Major League Baseball. I'd been around, actually, a lot of Hall of Famers having gone up to Cooperstown for many, many years. And so I was somewhat used to it. And then they said, oh, you have interviews set up on the side, right to the side of the stage as the Hall of Famers come in. And I interviewed Henry Aaron. And when I was done, I was like, okay, thanks. I'm so locked in the moment in my interview. I conducted the interview. I sent it back to Carl Ravitch and Chris Berman. Everybody, all right, guys, take it away. And then as I stood there, my son Lucky was over there, because I bring my whole family there. My son Lucky is there, and he walked over and he said, have you ever interviewed Henry Aaron? And it suddenly hit me. No, I hadn't. And I was like, whoa. Right, because he's a baseball card to me. Listen, he was a legendary figure. I'm in Little League, and he's already a legend. So to speak to him, I had the same feeling you did. I was like, this is incredible. And he lived up to that, which is marvelous when that happens. Let's bring in Terrence Moore right now, longtime sports writer, also the author of The Real Hank Aaron, an intimate look at the life and legacy of the home run king. We have it here. We've talked to Terrence before. Terrence, it's Brian Kenny. Great to have you back on the show.
Well, thank you. Good to be here.
Terrence, let me ask you, where were you watching Aaron when he hit that home run off Al Downing, the home run?
You know, Brian, this ties into my entire story with Hank Aaron. I was destined to be the Hank Aaron whisperer because I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you know, and I was in high school at the time. My parents had moved to Milwaukee. My dad was an AT&T supervisor. We were all big, huge Hank Aaron fans. Through the years, when I grew up in South Bend, Indiana, we moved to Cincinnati in '68, first year of the Big Red Machine. We used to see Hank Aaron at Crosley Field, and then later on at Riverfront Stadium. So I'm setting up to say, so we moved to Milwaukee, and I used to kid Hank all the time, you follow me around, Hank. He finishes his career with the Milwaukee Brewers, obviously, in '75 and '76. But before all of that, '74, that moment, my family, we were all prepared to watch this historic moment, this African-American family, down in our living room on a color TV set, and the TV set breaks. It doesn't work. So we're in this panic, you know, and it was right before the moment. So we had this little small black and white television set that my dad put up in the kitchen, and my mom had prepared all this food for this moment, because for African Americans, this moment for us on April 8th, 1974, was very similar to April 15th, 1947, when another group of African Americans and people in general gathered around a radio for Jackie Robinson. So we were around this small black and white television set in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the city that Hank loved. And when he hit the home run, the loudest cheer you could hear in Wisconsin was from our little household.
Wow. Go one level deeper on that, Terrence. Why, especially for people today, what was the importance of the feat in the early 1970s for you, your family, for African Americans?
Yeah, you know, I can't stress this enough. And I write about this in The Real Hank Aaron, the book that you just referenced before. Hank Aaron was more than just a baseball player to everybody, but particularly to African Americans. This guy was a civil rights icon. And I don't think people realize this. I mean, this is a guy that used to be part of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And I would say people talk about the importance of Jackie Robinson when it came to just what he, for civil rights is concerned. Hank Aaron did all of that. I mean, I'm not even talking about all the stuff he encountered that year and a half to 2 years chasing Babe Ruth's record with the hate mail and the death threats. I'm just talking about in general, all these things that people don't realize, how he was a trailblazer for African Americans in so many ways.
You know, Aaron also, and we just spoke about it here, Terrence, that he comported himself differently. And in this age of celebrity and, you know, chasing likes and everything else, that Hank Aaron was more of an icon than a celebrity. What are the lessons from that we can learn from his life and the way he carried himself?
Yeah, I want to start with this. I was listening to your conversation right before I got on the air. And, you know, you got people who said they've only met Hank Aaron for 20 minutes, 30 seconds, or what have you. Listen, I knew Hank Aaron for 40 years, and I will kid you not. There was not a time, and I was around Hank a lot, there was not a time when I personally got chills every single time I talked to this man. I was in total awe. And I'm setting it up to say that he was not a guy that really, you know, made you want to feel that way from his perspective. He was the most down-to-earth superstar that I've ever encountered in my life. And, you know, I've been in the business 47 years. I've covered everything, National Football League, Major League Baseball. I'm at the Final Four right now here in Glendale, Arizona. And I'll tell you, he is the most down-to-earth human being celebrity that I've ever met, and probably certainly in the top 4 or 5 on the face of the earth ever.
Terrence, great stuff. I'll put up the book one more time. People can read about Henry Aaron, the real Hank Aaron, an intimate look at the life and legacy of the home run king by Terrence Moore, who was with Hank for so many years there and covering his life. Terrence, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for coming back on.
Well, thank you. They can go to www.therealhankaaron.com, and I would autograph it for them personally.
Excellent. Good stuff. Terrence, thank you so much.
Thank you.
By the way, you take a look at Truist Park tonight. Greg Amsinger, Harold Reynolds will be there live for MLB Tonight. Again, as they celebrate Hank Aaron's 715th home run, the 50th anniversary. You can see it tonight. Let's say 5 o'clock Eastern time. Mets and Braves coming up at 7 Eastern. I actually was at Cooperstown, where I had the chance to introduce Hank for the last time that he was at. See what we do with the animation? He's actually moving the cup of Joe right there. It's not,
Notice that.
It's like it's AI. Joe Madden joins us once again. How are you, Joe? Good to have you back on.
Good, brother. Good to see you.
Managerial news. This we wouldn't otherwise get in, but you're here. I want to ask you. The Marlins voided Skip Schumacher's club option for next year. He was manager of the year last year. Why would that be?
Well, I don't know. I read that. I didn't quite understand that. It had to be a conversation with him and them somehow, right? Why would you void the club option other than to give him freedom coming into the following season? I don't get it. I really don't. I left there an explanation from Peter. I don't know if it's something that Skip may have initiated on his side, or maybe possibly his agent said something to the group. Maybe they're 1-8 or 1-8, 1-9 start, all that stuff, and looking down the road, what's going on within their system, and even to the point where I don't even know how he's getting along with Peter right now, as an example. So all those things could be possibilities.
Yeah, it's strange because now Pete Bendix is the new GM. He just takes over president of baseball operations, comes over from the Rays. Schumacher proved himself pretty nicely last year. It takes confidence, though, to say, yeah, void that. I'd like to hit the open market like Craig Counsell, right? That's tough to do. Especially
in your second year. I mean, that's the part that's incongruent for me. I mean, my goodness, I was really walking on eggshells that second year with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays back in 2006-07. A lot of confidence on your side there. Maybe hearing other things from other people. I don't know, but it's just an unusual first step kind of a thing we've never seen before. So I'd really like to know nitty gritty wise, what is the real reason behind it?
Yeah, we'll find out a little more, but again, it could be marketable, and also seeing what's happening with the club. Again, they could be in a rebuilding process here.
Exactly. Right.
This weekend, we saw a couple of things. The A's used Mason Miller. He's a kid who throws over 100, 2-inning save. A.J. Hinch of the Tigers used Jason Foley in the 8th inning against the heart of the order instead of saving him for the 9th. So my question, Joe, is this, though. Teams obviously are more flexible with the relief ace these days. You were famously flexible, and yet we always seem to revert back at a certain point to that 9th inning Dennis Eckersley closer model, 1 inning for a save. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I think the A's used him because they wanted to get a win. I mean, they needed to get those wins to build up confidence. So that's what was going on there. Foley on the other side with the Detroit side of things, I could see AJ, matching up based on the other team's better part of the order versus this guy.
Right. Sure.
Next point. I mean, yeah, the thing with that is that when you have a legitimate closer, it's really a lot easier to build the first 7 or 8 innings, knowing that this guy's there in the 9th. But when you also start using guys multiple innings this early in the season, how long is he going to last, especially from the perspective that nobody wants guys to throw too often? There's a lot of stuff going on in there, again, to unpack. So I think there's a variety of different reasons. I liked using, when you have bullpen by committee as a manager, that really frees you up to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, and yet we revert back. And I'm even saying maybe it is. I think I like a kind of that older, proven closer in the ninth, and I want my relief ace roaming high leverage. I want my Terminator, my Tom Henke, whoever it is. I want him roaming the 6th, 7th, and 8th. But eventually that guy who's the Terminator, you eventually promote him to the 9th inning and he stays in his lane. Is that human nature? We just like certainty? What is that?
I think that is. I think it's part of the way it's been for a long period of time. So that guy, when you hire that guy, when that guy comes on board, when you buy that relief pitcher, he comes in there under that assumption and possibly potentially gets paid more than these other guys too. There's a paid component to this also.
Right, of course.
So, and that's a big part of it. So he wants those saves. He doesn't want to pitch when it's not a save situation. And then today's game, remember, with the 3-batter minimum, 4 points is different. Now, when you go into the 9th inning, it's a 4-point deficit. You don't want to just put anybody out there, or 4-point lead. You want to put anybody out there to start putting people on base, and now you got to rush your closer to get ready and come in. That's not spoken about enough right now. So for me, it was very uncomfortable. Depends on the team you're playing, the part of the batting order coming up, to not put your closer in, even with 4 runs, because of what may happen.
Okay. Human nature is funny. We'll dig deeper into that another time. Okay. We go back to. Do you have any sort of theory on the pitcher injury thing? We've seen with Spencer Strider, Shane Bieber, Yuri Perez just before that. Like, it seemed to be a real rash of guys like just this weekend. Give me your again, you've been 40, 50 years in the game. Joe, give me a theory for why this is happening that maybe we're not thinking of.
Well, it's certainly not from overpitching, and that's part of it. And I think the obvious reason, I think, I'm a fan of Freakonomics, so you got to look below the surface, but it seems to me, obviously, it's the chasing of velocity. It really is. Not only velocity in the fastball, but velocity in the breaking balls, too. When we talk about velocity, we just think that it's all about the fastball. And primarily when the kids coming up these days, look at the drills they're doing. They skip or hop in and throw into a net as hard as they can. They throw into a wall as hard as they can. Totally irrespective, regardless of mechanics, good mechanics, balance in your delivery, how you're using your arm. And everybody talks about better mechanics these days, and I keep hearing that from a lot of folks. And for me, I don't even know what that means sometimes, quite frankly. I'm still an advocate of a really good pitching coach that knows what he's looking at. So it's chasing velocity, both fastball and breaking ball, I believe, because it's certainly not from throwing too often, and maybe throwing a little bit more often, permitting guys to throw more pitches early on in their career might prohibit this from happening later on. Yeah. So again, how do you change that incentive system? Like this has been coming for years. Like how do you stop every 14 and 15-year-old, or trying to get a scholarship, or 19-year-old trying to get to high A ball, when he knows what you want, what we all want, is for him to pop that mitt? You're 100% accurate. It's the chasing of an opportunity plus chasing of money. Yeah, that's pretty my spot in the draft class. I want to be number one, or as high as I possibly can get. So you're right. I don't know how that's going to necessarily change unless we start promoting and talking about more pitchability, starting pitchers pitching, getting them more into the third time through out of the batting order by incorporating more pitches. You have to have like a range of velocity and not just velocity, just not a number that you always throw to. Guys that are able to pitch at different numbers. For instance, there's a runner on third base, less than 2 outs. That's the time I want to go for the punch out. But too many of these guys today are going for the punch from the very first pitch. You're getting max effort, max velocity from pitch one. And I think in turn that is contributing to the point where you're getting all these injuries. All right. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, BK. Thank you. See you, buddy. Thanks, Joe Madden there, just scratching the surface on that. When we come back, Major League Fastball was in 2015 at 93. Now it's up to 94. Case like Sean Casey is with us again. Again, a guy who popped 92. That was some serious heat in the day when you were pitching, when you were playing, right? No doubt about it. Now you're starting to see the averages sitting at 94. That's a big bump. It's just average. That's average then. And obviously, guys are going hard. And beyond that, something Joe had touched on, it's not just fastballs. Now, non-fastball usage from 43%. That's only in 2015 when StatCast began tracking, up to 52%. So it's like hard breaking stuff. Here's our own Ron Darling calling a Mets game on SNY. Gave his theory. This is well thought out. Listen in.
I don't know if there's anything to be done because it's starting at such an early point in their amateur careers, by the time they get to become a pro, they're well on their way to taxing, especially if we're talking about the ulnar collateral ligament. We're talking about the elbow. We have become very good, and people have made a lot of money in teaching young pitchers how to throw harder. But what we have now is we've rebuilt this engine that's too big for the chassis. If you're a young pitcher and you can throw 92 to 95 on a gun, you're going to be drafted and they're going to pay you $5 million. That's why a lot of this stuff is not going to go away.
Ron Darling there again, talking to Gary Cohen on NSNY. Good comments there. Sean, your boys are playing, youth baseball, college baseball, and all that stuff. Tell us, what is it like? Because I keep talking about, hey, ground level, the incentive system is to pop the mitt. How do you slow that? What do you see?
The young kids are watching the guys in the big leagues, and it's still, even at the level of 12, 13, 14, it's about velocity. Dr. Kremchek, who I had on my podcast recently, who's one of the best Tommy John surgeons in the country, he's the Cincinnati Reds doctor. I asked him, hey, what's going on? He's like, more and more, BK, he's seeing 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-olds having Tommy John surgery. He thinks it's an epidemic. It really is, because these kids are spinning the ball more and trying to get velocity. I think another thing, too, when I was in the dugout with the Yankees this past season and game planning for the hitters against these pitchers, the one thing that I noticed is that those pitchers are chasing the velocity and they're chasing the spin rate. More guys, I can't tell you how many times I'd be like, hey, guys, this guy throws 48% sliders. This guy throws, hard 12-6 curveballs. That has to do something to that UCL ligament when you're really trying to get that spin rate to another level. So velo and spin rate, I think, are two big things that are talked about for pitchers, and I think that's a huge reason why guys are blowing out.
I think the biggest problem is not in professional baseball. I think the biggest problem goes back to when these pitchers were in high school, junior high school, early teenagers, pre-teenagers, playing travel ball, playing school ball, playing, perfect game showcases. These kids have been pitching since they're 10 years old or younger, throwing curveballs since they're 10 years old. I think the abuse of the arm for most of these guys from the time, most players in the big leagues weren't multi-sport athletes. They picked baseball when they were very young.
And they picked pitching.
Right. They did it for 8-9 months a year, and they did nothing else. And they didn't give themselves proper rest. The travel ball coaches wanted to win. The high school ball coaches wanted to win. Health be damned long term.
Right.
And I think that's why you're seeing this generation come up, more and more injuries. MLB can do everything it wants to try to figure out how to reduce the injury issue for its players, but they have no governance over how these players are treated when they're 12. And I think that's really where this goes back much further than that. You see this right here. 2010, 103 Tommy John surgeries between the majors and the minors.
Unbelievable.
Fast forward 10 years, and it's double that.
But you know what the most alarming thing said here is Sean saying this 12-year-old's getting Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
Right, so it went from, look, again, we're going to take it back. I talked to a youth league coach. I didn't even realize until about, I got here like 10, 12 years ago. And it's like, no, there's a pitcher only. He's a PO, pitcher only, which means in travel ball, it's like that kid doesn't play the field. He doesn't have a bat, may not own a bat, Case. It's like he's a pitcher, and he travels from team to team. He's a gun for hire. He's a pitcher. You have some tall kid who can throw, and he becomes a pitcher only. And John Smoltz, right, who's walking the earth still to this day, he didn't play baseball year round. Like guys who were like probably your age too. Yeah. You played multiple sports. Like you weren't playing baseball all year round. So I don't know how you stem this tide where all the attention and all the promotion and all the glory comes from popping that mitt, right? Because we can say, don't do that, you'll hurt yourself. But if I want to get into that team, if I want to make that travel club, if I want to get that scholarship, if I want to get drafted, what us really want, and that's to pop the mitt.
They're all talking velocity. And like Ron was saying, it was a great point he was talking about too, how, nowadays when what do we see on Instagram and on X and all these things is these guys crow hopping, throwing as hard as they can to pop that gun. Yeah. They just want to pop the gun. Yeah. And nowadays too, but in the draft too, the scouts are looking for velo. So this UCL issue is going to be here a while because that's what they measure guys on.
Look, when we're at ballparks, what gets the fans going, ooh, when the radar gun says 101.9 or something like that. Yeah. They don't go, ooh, over a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, right? Mike Mussina pitched 3,500 innings and is the Hall of Fame. throwing most of his career in the low 90s, or maybe high 80s towards the end of it, but he knew how to pitch. He knew how to get guys out. There's a difference between that 92-mile-an-hour fastball and that 78-mile-an-hour changeup or whatever it may have been. And you can be effective, but that's not what kids are looking at now.
No question, yeah.
They're looking at triple digits, and you talked about the 12-year-olds having Tommy John. Some kids are having it electively. That first sign of elbow pain, and their father or their mother says, well, let's get that taken care of now, and it'll be stronger when you're in high school.
Yeah.
2-time Tommy John surgery is going to become the norm.
Yeah. Watch Shota Imanaga for the Cubs this weekend. Now, he only sits in the low 90s, but his fastball looks 95, 96 because he's changing speeds. But he's already a survivor. He's gotten through. So if you get to the majors, you can say, okay, I can change my repertoire because pitching works. Right? You know, changing speeds, changing everything. But to get to the majors, Sean, again, even you come out, you know, you think, oh, I'm a lock. You all know when you're coming up, you're not a lock.
No.
So you got to try to lock that up. Yeah, it's unfortunate. We'll take a short break. When we come back, about to teach his class out there. The master class, right, Rob?
That's right. Baseball writing for the future here at USC. Today, Bob Nightingale from USA Today will drop by the class, so I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Rob, good to have you back. I want to start off. We have a little shtick that we do here. It's kind of the media overreaction game. Let's roll it, fellas. And we usually don't bring out concern, panic, or the flames of doom in early April. But you've got the flames of doom for the Astros. Come on, Rob, really?
Yes, I know, BK, it's easy to say it's early, and they had 4 starters on the IL before the season started, and they got off to a rocky start. What do you expect? But they were winning those games. When they got swept by the Yankees, they were actually winning those games and gave them up late. Also, they continue to lose at home. That's what's scary about the Astros. You know this last year. When they lost to the Rangers, they lost those games at home.
That is weird. It's weird, though. Isn't that just weird and happenstance and weird? I don't know why that is. Or they talk about, like, the batter's eye or some weird thing. I don't think they're cursed. I don't think they can't win at home. By the way, they're hitting pretty well, and they're pitching pretty well. The back end of the bullpen is going to be fine. Their mid-bullpen is weak. So that's where they're losing those games. Only Bregman and Abreu aren't hitting, and they've got 2 guys with a 0 ERA, one with a mid-2 ERA. They're still pretty good, Rob.
All right, they're so good that they're tied with the Oakland A's for the same record, right? That's how good they are, BK? Is that what you're telling me?
As you would say, pump your brakes. It's a little early. Like, come on. They lost some games because admittedly, they went Josh Hader. I don't like doing $100 million for your elite closer when you ignore your middle innings. I didn't like it when the Mets did it last year for Diaz, saying when you put your eggs in one basket, where's Hector Neris? Where's the rest of your bullpen? You need build-up guys as well. That's where they're weak. But they're pretty good. The engine is pretty good, Rob. You got to admit.
Okay, let me say, do you know, we don't know what 41-year-old Justin Verlander will return. Let's just be honest. This is not 32-year-old Justin Verlander. And there's no Dusty Baker. I know people want to poo-poo it, act like a manager doesn't matter. He doesn't set the tone. Dusty's gone. I mean, these are things that could affect the team long term.
I think Joe Espada's a good manager. I think he's going to be a good manager. But you're right. Dusty's not there. It's a bad start. I'll give you that. But doomed. I think you're way off on this. You won a few last year. Don't get too greedy. All right. I have to even admit this, and I know you're on this. Juan Soto is a great Yankee, like already. Like, he is such a good fit. I'll just give it up to you. I know you're going to go there. Tell us why you think Soto. Do you think Soto should stay? Because that's going to be a little pricier. It's one thing to get him this year. It's another thing to keep him there.
I think so. I think that a lot of players are afraid to play in New York and can't be themselves. And this guy has embraced everything from the beginning. Obviously, got off to that great start, those 4 games in Houston. That allows you to relax and just start playing and not pressing. But the first roll call, by the fans in right field, Yankee Stadium, just amazing that he embraces everything. They have some swag there. The Yankees had, I talked to you about this last year. There were like 8 or 9 outfielders who were all the same, all no-name guys. And now you got a real star who's embracing the stage, who's performing on the stage. The Yankees have swagger I have not seen in a long time between him and Marcus Stroman. I love everything about it. They're must-see TV right now when I'm watching baseball.
I hate swag so much because on most baseball shows, they talk swag all day long and as if it's a thing. But I have to admit, right, they had no spice. He's all spice. Why? His spice was no good in San Diego. They were already spicy. He comes to the Bronx, and suddenly these guys are all right. They're kind of analytic robots. Everyone's straight, pinstripes, corporate. And he injects life. There's no question. But can we think of another word beyond swag? I mean, his approach is excellent. He threw a guy out at the plate. Like, his actual acts are good. It's not just that he's acting flashy and has, like a chain on. It's like he's actually doing baseball-y things, effective things.
No doubt. I get your point, and it's overused, the swag, but it's just like a different juice, a different feel,
energy.
A different energy.
His energy is there.
Energy.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Hey, before we go, Henry Aaron, 50th anniversary of 7-15, you were watching?
Oh, absolutely. And, everyone in Black America, especially, knows where they were when Hank Aaron hit number 715. I'll tell you how special it is to me, BK. I had a long-time radio show in Detroit, and we used to have the Hank Aaron time check on the radio show where we would play that at 7:15 every single night. It was the Hank Aaron time check.
That's great.
Yeah, and it would be every 7:15, and I think it's the greatest home run ever hit in Major League Baseball. Bobby Thompson shot around the world #2, but that was to do it in the South, to pass Babe Ruth, and what it meant to black people in the United States, and was tremendous.
It is the length of it. Again, growing up, we were little kids at the time, but growing up, 714, that we thought no one's ever approaching that. Like that, Babe Ruth's record was the #1 record in all of sports. No one's getting to 714. There's a 500 home run club. There's no 700 home run club. And Aaron did it just year after year. No juice baseball. Dead ball baseball a lot of the years, and he did it. Rob, we got to let you go. Excellent stuff.
Oh, always a pleasure, no doubt. Thanks, BK.
By the way, you can check out the Inside the Parker podcast. You can also, I love how you put it, make sure to subscribe. It sounds like, make sure to subscribe to Rob Parker Inside the Parker podcast. How is that? It's my Rob Parker invitation. Coming up. Yeah, no, you liked it. Excellent. All right, Rob, we got to go.
I love it.
There we go.
Sell it, BK. Sell it.
You got to pump the brakes. Anyway, when we come back of Henry Aaron's career, let us know on X. His consistency and his grace, professionalism. Yeah, underrated traits of greatness case, right?
Yeah.
Again, in this day and age, too. Consistent greatness, longevity, amazing mental toughness, right? In the chase of the record, too. Again, it was a great deal of resistance. Right. I didn't even get this at Austin. Thank you. That's just something we bring up when we're at the Hall of Fame all the time. Take away all of his homers. He's got 3,000 hits. Oh, wow. He was second to Ty Cobb in hits. Only Ty Cobb when he retired. Again, had every other record. All right. Baseball plays of the day. Again, Mark Case, jump in on this. Orioles and Pirates edition. Look at Gunnar Henderson look at the jump he gets on Aroldis Chapman.
They no doubt have the analytics. Like, this guy's not picking over, and you can just go on him. He's not.
And he goes again.
Yeah.
Now he's got third.
Heads up.
Yeah, Chapman's never been real big on attention to detail with base runners, but this is really heads-up play by Gunnar right
here. Yeah, look, he's just brazenly taking it. Now, here in the top of the ninth, look at Jordan Westbrook here. Again, a lot of guys don't score. It's a 3-2 ball game. Westbrook goes in and he gets there.
Now, the Orioles coaching staff has this team really well prepared. They know what the opponents are good at and what they can take advantage of, and they're very aggressive.
Secondary leads are marvelous.
Secondary leads are great, going on contact. This is how you win ball games. Game of inches, guys.
All right, it's a Sunday now. Let's go to the top of the fifth. It's Jorge Mateo. Jorge Mateo made baseball plays all last year. When he gets to play, he just got to hit a little more. He gets in. Now, he puts that to right. Connor Joe has a little trouble with it. So Mateo, all right, going to go to second. No case. He's going to go to third.
I love it. And there's nothing better as a player when you run in somebody's face. He stayed with the play, saw Connor Joe drop it right here. He sticks with it, doesn't rely on his third base coach, looks back, nice. Bam, he's off the third.
Yeah, there's a reason. Look, he makes baseball plays all the time. Made them all last year. So now this brings us now to Rowdy Tellez, who is both baseball-y and up to no good. So look, give him credit. First of all, watch him here on this. This is on Saturday. Ground ball to third, goes in. Whoops. What do we think of that slide? Was
that one I give a little more up to no good than baseball-y.
Yeah.
He had to touch that base with his hand because his feet were all the way out to the left.
He is up to no good, but it's not too overt that you're going to call it, right? Or would you call it? They didn't.
No, you're not calling it, but that's
near
more
the base.
Look, that's Jordan Westberg was at third. He's trying to make that slide, gets knocked out.
Baltimore loses their challenge.
Oh, they called him out? They called him out?
Apparently.
No, they did not overturn it. Okay, yeah. So meantime, look at this. With the game on the line on Sunday, Gunnar Henderson up, and then the throw gets away, 2-run score, Baltimore wins. But you know why? Case, look, Rowdy Tellez doesn't peel off. He doesn't slide. Oh, let me get out of your way. He comes in like a refrigerator.
Listen,
you can't throw around
the
him.
Pirates are teaching that. Derek Shelton is teaching their runners, hey, listen, don't get down. Just come in there and make them make a play. That's the reason Gunnar Henderson throws that ball away.
Again, both of those plays are smart. I can say he's up to no good. And yet, look, you don't have to give yourself up and be a chump out there. Like, you have to just run and say, look, I'm risking a baseball hitting me right in the head, but the game's on the line right now.
I'll give that one more baseball-y than up to no good. That's just a good play. You're disrupting the double play. It was winning play of the game. So clearly that one I'll give baseball-y. Until somebody throws that ball right at you,
off your chest
or off your forehead.
That happens to you.
Then people think twice about not sliding.
So watch again. He comes in like a lot of guys will just give themselves up and everything. There's Rowdy going, now look, you're just gonna have to deal with me.
Yeah.
And by the way, he's like the size of the
He's
three
huge.
of us.
A refrigerator.
Right. He creates quite an optic.
And he kind of comes in a little bit. That's what they're teaching him, though, and it worked.
Pirates took that series. All right, time to play America's favorite game show, Hit or Error. We don't do this an awful lot now, but here's a no-hitter, guys. Top of the sixth on Saturday, Bailey Falter. And Case, you explain this to me, because this is a hit. I'll just tell you right now, this is it. This breaks up a no-hitter. This is okay, Case? You tell me it's okay.
Yeah, that's a hit.
Yeah, that's a hit. How's that a hit?
It's a hit.
How's that a hit?
Because it's just a miscommunication, which is part of the game. I think this is kind of in no man's land. You see Swinsky say, you're going to take it, Williams. It's a hit. I want it. I want it.
We have weird.
They didn't touch it.
We have weird things.
No
in
one
baseball,
touched
don't
it.
they? Like, so what? There's three guys looking at it.
It's a communication error between the fielders, but it's not a physical error. I don't know
who's deeming what it can't be a communication error.
Do you know how far they had to run?
You guys think of how resolute these guys are. Like,
are you giving the second baseman the error?
Sure. I'll give a team error. Give right fielder. Assess blame. If you really want to assess blame, assess blame. If we're look, I want to get rid of errors, so I'm fine. But if you're going to play the man's game, let's do it.
No one even touched the ball, BK. No one was 5 feet from it. It just landed in between three guys.
I want you to be a pitcher next time that happens, and you make that argument. Right. How about this?
That's a true hitter talking right there.
Back on March 30th, Nolan Shanuel, ground ball, tough play, and beats it out, and that's a hit.
That's a hit.
It was ruled a hit. On Saturday, April 6th, someone on the Orioles must have said, hey, we'd like a ruling on this. They retroactively made this an error. It eliminated his on-base streak, which was at 30. We thought it got to 37. It did not. It only got to 30. Why would you go back a week later and assess this as an error?
I think this is terrible. I have no idea. Listen, as a hitter, if a guy has to leave his feet on a dive and then make the toughest play in the game, it's that throw to the pitcher and he drops it. That's a hit all the way.
He was approaching Truck Hanna, by the way. He was at 37, and now Truck's safe at 38.
I wouldn't have had a problem if this had been called an error on the field. Or, by the scorer that day. That's a borderline play right there. But to go back a week later, even if it's, later that night or the next day they review it, a week later seems a little bit excessive.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine spending like, hey, we have a meeting. There's probably a Zoom meeting. Let's look at this and actually changing this over. It didn't even lead to a run. By the way, this was a tough play. If you got to dive down for the ball, make a throw, so many things have to happen right to make that play. Come on.
Listen.
Whereas the other one was a hit.
The dive's incredible. That's an incredible play. And the pitcher's coming over. This is the toughest play in the game, is hit the pitcher on the run.
Right.
That's a hit. Sorry.
And meanwhile, they assessed that in error. But the three of us watching a ball drop right there. That's it.
All right, Nolan, your on-base streak is still good for us.
Yeah.
We still count it.
Time to think baseball. Talk about Henry Aaron. What pitcher did Henry Aaron hit the most home runs against in his career? There it is. Hit the most runs. You mean home runs, fellas, right? We didn't change. Home runs, yes. Home runs in his career. Let us know what you think. Think baseball. The answer when we come back.
There is a speed bump on the front. There is a speed bump on the front. After a while, is the 50 km/h speed control section.